Hi, and welcome to another episode of Kuntarkis. My name is Michael Yon, and this episode is on the Elemental Kingdom. So, Kuntarkis, years ago, I remember I saw you in person. You actually gave a seminar on the elementals. It went for maybe 3.5 hours, and it was absolutely brilliant. If we can condense some of that now, my first question is, what is the Elemental Kingdom, and why is it invisible to us?
Okay. When the Earth was first created over 4.71 billion years ago, the being that created planet Earth and brought it into reality also put in a spirit of living energy into the actual planet. That's why the planet Earth became nourished very quickly. Trees, forests, jungles, everything seems to come together very, very quickly, because of the spirit that was placed within the earth, which is called now Mother Earth. Mother Earth, through its own vibration, has the ability to also create the element kingdom. So the element kingdom works with Mother Earth to produce and to make sure everything is balanced in every way possible. And that's from trees, vegetation, waters, like fresh waters, ocean waters, the rock world, everything to keep it sustained and to keep it balanced. That was a very, very important factor. A lot of planets come into existence through vibration, through other planets that have exploded, and the dust particles over millions upon millions of years are all magnetically pulled together, which can create a planet after all that time. But Mother Earth is very different. The element kingdom is an incredible species, and there's all different varieties of species, and they all have different allocations to what they have to do. They never complain, they never feel pain. They do feel a little bit of annoyance, not anger like us. Sometimes, if the element kingdom in the beings hang around, say, an angry person too long, they can attach some of that negative energy upon their own energies and reproduce the same scenario, which is a little sad.
And so, this elemental kingdom, like I said, is invisible to us. For some reason, is it in the fourth dimension?
It is within the fourth dimensional vibration. Now, the interesting factor about the fourth dimension, now, you know how we got the third dimension, right, which is physical. We can also step back and realize that on this planet at this exact moment, there are second dimensional humans. Notice I didn't say human beings, because a human being cannot be something that consumes animals, because animals have feelings. Animals have their own form of love and consciousness, which is a little bit below humanity. But the way we as humans act, we are lesser than them when it comes to feelings, because most of humanity do not come from the feeling of the heart. They come from what they believe conditional love is. The element kingdom, on the other hand, they're trying to help us lift our vibration into the heart feeling vibration so we can change our existence, which also helps the element world grow consciously as well. Now, if we go further back, there's the first dimension. There are still first dimensional beings on this planet. Those first dimensional beings are the ones that, like narcissists, psychopaths, serial rapists who have no sense of feeling towards anything, no empathy, no heart. Now, if we look beyond the fourth, the second, the third, and we enter the fourth, within the fourth dimension, there are different levels of consciousness. That's why we don't see them, because we vibrate at a different frequency to them. The exact frequency, I cannot tell you, but I would say anything between 25,000 to 35,000 cycles per second. In the fourth dimension, they probably would vibrate between 38 and probably 49,000 cycles per second. So there's a big difference between the vision. One of the reasons we do not see into the fourth dimension is because our pineal gland is coated within, say, fluoride, which becomes solid, and it doesn't allow our connection to the outer universe. So we cannot grow consciously to look within the fourth dimensional vibration. The interesting factor is to prove this to anyone that listens to this. When you're by yourself and it's dark or a dark room, lay on your bed and close your eyes and just say, I am the light, I am the light, I am the light. And my whole inner and outer being is light. And just lay there as if you are looking straight in front of you with your eyes closed. Maybe 5 minutes. Now, if you can't see anything moving or no vision, it means that you don't have the ability to see into the fourth dimension. Some say they see shapes. Some say they see movement, but it's all black, and it only lasts for a moment or two. The interesting factor about that, if we open up our pineal gland, we also open up our third eye. By opening up our third eye, we can see directly through the power of thought, through thought consciousness, and see within the fourth dimension. Not everything, but as we grow consciously, it becomes more and more and more open to us. So that's the difference, basically, between vibrations. It's like the fourth dimension. They can't look into the fifth or the sixth or the seventh. Right? It's the same principle. But if you grow consciously in your third dimensional life and you really put the energy into it, what you'll find that you'll be able to look into the seventh dimension. And sometimes, depending on your advancement, even beyond that. It's entirely the choice of the human individual.
Yeah, certainly there have been many people in the past that have come across the elemental kingdom. They have noticed them. They've even written books about them, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The reason I was so easily in presenting that seminar that you were talking about called the Elementals, or the Elemental World, or the Elemental Kingdom, was because I was already putting years and years and years of energy and effort into communication with them. And I communicated with them in a broad spectrum, far more than I do today. I take note of, say, Jaka, even Jakku, Raspin, Man. If they suddenly come into my vibration, I see them clearly. It's not an issue. Sometimes, if I'm sitting down doing something like on the computer, or I'm sitting having a coffee with my darling, a light will suddenly appear and I'll know the frequency of that light. And I say, oh, Jaka's here, or Raspin, and they're going to take JC away to teach him. You know, things like that. It's up to us. It's up to us.
Okay, Kuntarkis, this is a big question. Can you describe the different elemental beings to us, what they look like, and what their part to play is in the kingdom?
Okay, I can do some, but not all, because it's so broad. It would take so long, and trying to bring all that information forward would be also a little difficult at the present moment. But the elemental world is very much like the human world, and that's what they represent. Interesting point. Why would they do that? Okay, we have on this earth many, many different human beings or human animals, whatever you want to call them. We have the Asians, and within the Asian world, even their structure in appearance can be quite different. We have the Western world. If you look around, all their faces are different. Their body shapes are different. Their heights are different. The way they communicate is different. Now, within, say, the European world, again, all different. Characteristics shape the reality of what each society becomes, whether it's through conditioning or a belief system. The elemental world does exactly the same thing. They actually are like us. And that's the interesting factor. They do what we say, like they copy us in reality. So what we have, let's say, for instance, a diva. Now, a diva is not a tall being, but it's also a very unusually shaped being. Most have a large head, shaped like a shovel, long nose, pointy at the end, but quite large. Their eyes can be small or their eyes can be large. Their eyes can vary in color, just like humans do. Their hair is always very scruffy. I mean, it's like they don't have a comb, mate, that's for sure. Sometimes they just wear a very unusual hat, like, like a witch's hat. Something similar in shape, but they all seem to be a dark brown, a browny color, like leather. Their body shape, their neck is very small because of their body shape. And their body shape is sort of quite round in the rump area and can be quite chuggy in the, say, chest area. Their stomach area also can protrude out. Their legs, very small, very bony looking. Some have big feet, some have small feet, even within the female world of the divas. So their whole body structure can vary so much. Yet when we come to the elves vary, but the elves are all slender, very slender in shape. Some are a little bit muscular in appearance. Some are lanky. They look a little bit more unusual. Their faces are sort of long, like their heads are long. Their chin comes down sort of more narrow than what we do because of the way their head is shaped. Their ears do have points. They're not as big as they have portrayed on some of the television shows. And they're not, I know this is going to sound horrible, but they're not ugly. There's no ugly ones in the Diva Kingdom or within the element world. They look different to us. That's it. I mean, I don't even class humans as ugly. I wouldn't even say that there are certain humans on this planet that look ugly. It's not that. It's not that word. What it is we are different in body form and different in characteristics. I've known people that aren't, say, as good looking as other people. And the people who are really good looking always seem to end up really egotistical in so many ways. Some don't, but many do. Where the one that doesn't look as nice and doesn't wear the makeup like, say, a lady, they seem to have a much deeper heart. Now, in the element kingdom, it's a very similar thing. If someone is walking along the road, like, say, a female, and she walks a certain way, and she's got a connection to the element kingdom, and there's one or two elements around her, they will copy her walk, and they will take it back to their vibration, which is fourth dimensional, and they'll just walk like that. Some will laugh. Some will even try to do the same, even speak like them. They love to copy. They don't really understand the meaning of bad and good, right or wrong. They normally don't do wrong, but they are cheeky. Some are very cheeky. Jaka can be cheeky. He's a wind element, and he's only very small. He's like about just over a foot high. Like that's probably 36 centimeters high. And he's a really scrawny little thing. He's got a round head that looks round, but not perfectly round. And he's got like wrinkle lines going across his face from his nose because he looks like he's a little chubby, but it's not fat chubby. It's just the way they're shaped. He hasn't got a lot of hair on his head. He hasn't got too much hair on his body, but he's got long bits of hair every so often. They come out and he pulls them out. So hair grows. It's amazing.
Did he have a mother and a father?
Yes, of course he did.
Of course he did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. They do have babies. Yes, absolutely. Very different to what we have, mate.
Mm.
Their babies are literally removed from their belly just by putting their hands through and removing them in the moment of birth.
Oh.
There's no cutting like we do.
Yeah.
No spreading the legs and coming out through you know where. That doesn't happen. It's a very different process because they're fourth dimensional. But the interesting factor about them, they can be invisible or they can be energy, just disguise themselves, or even look physical. And that's what really intrigued me probably 30 years ago when I started having a lot of contact. And that was the interesting factor about them. So the elves, they can move very quick. And the divas, they can't. When they run, they wobble. That's just the way it is. So the characteristics can look different if you compare it to humanity.
Mm.
But if you look at it honestly, the characteristics can be also quite similar because of copying.
And do you just want to name a few other ones? Because I think there's also...
Yeah, also the fairies, for instance, right? Now, the fairies, they're real. And the interesting thing about the fairies, they don't have wings. They portrayed them as having wings. That's because of the movies. You know, people have spoken about it. There's been books and all that type of stuff showing wings and everything. But I've never seen a winged fairy yet. Yet I've seen a lot of little fairies.
So they fly around?
They fly around, yeah. Absolutely they do. I mean, Jaka can leap so high. He's a wind element. He can create a small whirlwind around him, and if he wants to look mean, he can grow like say to 3 meters high, 4 meters high, and his eyes are stuck in the center of his head. His head shape all changes, but he becomes like living energy as a whirlwind, and I've experienced that many times with him. Well, so is also Chipper for years and years and years. The interesting fact about fairies, mate, fairies have a gift. And if you befriend a fairy or two or a dozen or 20 or 30, they also, if they really like you and you treat them with total respect and honesty of a heart, they can help you in relationships, find the right person. They can help guide the right entity into your vibration. They can also help you even with your finances, not by giving you, gold. That's a bit of a fairy tale, but they can help your energies in your vibration attract certain things. So they have a very positive thing about themselves. Very positive. Very positive.
Another one is the gnomes.
The gnomes, yes, the gnomes. Now, the gnomes, they're a really unusual looking creature. If I remember in my mind, I'm just looking into my mind. They actually look a little bit Asian. I've seen Asian people that reminded me of gnomes, but their faces are very different. These ones that I'm seeing at the moment don't actually have hair, but they have large eyes. Now, Jaka, he doesn't have large eyes, but he has large eyes for his head, because his head's only small, but his eyes are big in his head, but they're not large eyes. But in a gnome, their eyes can be quite large. And they're also a very wobbling type of being. And they look after the flower world. They love the flower world. Jaka, he loves the wind. He goes into the wind every time there's a lot of wind around. And he helps increase the velocity of it. Yeah.
Wow. What you've mentioned the purpose of the gnomes. And the purpose of the wind elements, for instance, and that explains obviously the water and the fire and the earth elements, I guess. What is the purpose of the divas and the elves?
Okay, the divas. Now, the divas, they love the rocks. They're the rock people. And they will make sure that everything's in place. They will even change the shape of things around so it helps. They're out there to help. So that's basically their idea. They also work in the crystal world. They love the inner caves. And if you went into an inner cave and you could actually see divas or elementals, you would see them hiding all around the big crystals or the little crystals that are within rocks, They also remove crystals and they take them back to their own, say, place of living. And they place them all around for energy. They understand the necessity of energy. And they find by having lots of crystals, depending on what type, it actually helps the vibration and keeps the harmony and peace. It also prevents, how would you say, this is going to be a strange one. It helps prevent the sounds of their echoes entering the third dimension. When they have crystals of certain types placed all around where they live. And where they live is a particular area, and they all seem to gather in that area, and they stay there always. And when they venture out, they never venture out alone. They have at least anything between 5 and 7 that will go together to when they're going to do things. Now, we speak about the Yowies, right? Because Yowies are classed as an elemental in reality. People call them Bigfoot. People call them, what's the other one? The Abominable Snowman.
Oh, there's many names. Yes.
Many names, yeah. But in truth, the actual Yowie, they've learned from an alien race to actually how to move through, say, dimensions like third and fourth. And the funny thing is, from what I was shown, it's not a hard thing to do. And you've got to have an open pineal gland to actually do it. Because what you do, you connect through your thought consciousness, through your pineal gland, to the outer energy, which is dimensional. And you can connect with that dimension and move through vibration if you put enough effort and energy into it. There's a big difference in that. Anyone can do it. Because, the Yowies, they're physical, but they're all vegetarian. So being a vegetarian does actually help in a big way when it comes to your conscious awareness or your conscious consciousness, whatever.
And what about what are they called? And what about the
Goblins,
el? No, oh, before you go on to goblins, which sounds great, what about the elves? What's the purpose of the elves?
the elves are a very interesting thing. What they do, they watch over humanity. They also watch what humanity does. And when there's a war going on, they put the energies out there to try and bring that energy back into balance so the war ends. Because when a war is created, the energies in so many areas become dark and grim because of death, because of anger, violence. And that violence stays because the people who died violently in a war, they live on as a spirit and they're caught between vibrations, many, many, many of them. And that creates a really bad energy area for elves to venture into. And it can also break, how would you say, break the energy field of that frequency. And there can be like a doorway between the human world and the elementals. And it's a very dangerous area when it gets into that, I suppose, that way of life. So they are the ones that try and end wars. Now we, through Harry Potter's and through what's the other thing? Oh, there's another one from England. All these different movies, and they work with the elementals, and they fight these horrible-looking creatures, and I think they're called the Goblins, and it just creates a really bad. It creates a really bad energy because it's negative. And I would never let JC, for instance, my young son, I would never let it, a Hobbit. You know the Hobbit?
Oh yeah.
Hobbits. That I would never let JC watch that. Same with Harry Potter. There's only 2 of the Harry Potter movies that we allow him to watch while he's so young. Yeah, when he gets older, and he's going to make that choice, well, that's up to him. That's his free will. But while he's young, I don't want him watching such violence and such ugly creatures like those goblins that they represent. They're all black and they got black blood, and when they get cut, the blood squirts out, and black. It's all black because it's all evil. So it's a bad thing for a child to watch and go to sleep because they will have nightmares, 100%.
So there are goblins in the elemental kingdom.
There are, yes, goblins. The goblins are, how would you say? There's a way of describing them. They don't wear hardly any clothes. They only wear, like, say, something around their waist. Their skin is very palely yellow. They have, they're very, hang on, I'm just trying to find the word. Okay, lethargic. I think you can use the word lethargic in the way they move, in the way they communicate. Most of the actual element kingdom don't want anything to do with them because of the negativity that exists within them. And they seem to want to be always negative. Sometimes they're positive, but a lot of times they're negative. And when there's a war on, they all seem to go there, and it creates more negativity.
Wow.
It's like if you go into a football field, right? And there's a big soccer game going on, and suddenly, one side's this type, one side is this team, and the other side is that team. And when someone does something on the football field, the ones on the left, they yell out, and brilliantly, and then suddenly if the ones down on the field do something wrong against one of the other ones, they all get violent. They curse, everything. You can see the violence reaching a peak where in the past there have been many attacks, just running on the field, attacking the players, attacking the other spectators, and you got to ask yourself why. Why does that happen? It's because of what they are from their previous and previous and previous lives. and something sparks that button and pushes it negatively. And people react, and when certain people react, that creates more of those people to react. And before you know it, the whole 30,000 are yelling out and cursing and everything at whoever it is, the players or the other spectators. And sometimes they'll yell out. And that's called violence and not a good thing. So the goblins always seem to hang around when there's negativity.
Is there anything positive about them being elementals, the goblins?
Yeah. I've got to say that I've known different people in different families right throughout the 56 years I've been here. And I've met many people, especially through being a metaphysical consultant. And I've had to always make sure when I communicated with one or two or four or five at the same time, being a family, I had to always place the light around myself from within and around all the time. And when they left, I would literally cleanse their energies from my vibration and wherever I am doing that consultation. Because if you don't, it builds up and builds up because it's energy. It's reality. It's an expression vocally, and it's expressed through anger or through sadness or disappointment or whatever else, even love. That's a beautiful thing. But if you don't disperse the energy, that's what you feel. Now, my wife went to England, and she went to the what's those the headstones? It's a big circle of rocks, tall rocks.
Stonehenge, maybe?
Stonehenge. I think that's Stonehenge, yes, mate. And when she got near it, she suddenly felt sick. It's because she is a being that comes directly from the heart. And when the heart comes into a place that is really negative, but most people don't pick it up, but they wonder why they react later on, or even then, it's because of the energy that exists there from what was in that era, the violence that took place. Thousands of people died in that area. Then they went to another place that was a cave for tourism. And Michelle couldn't go into it. And she said to, I think it was Rod and Sharon, I think they were with, the friends of it. They said, why not? I can't go in, she said. I can't go in. She said, it's too negative. And she didn't. Right? But she picks it up. And when you start picking that up, you've got to be careful it doesn't affect you psychologically.
Yeah, wow.
Say, for instance, okay, let's pick a place like Gaza, for instance, right? All the murders that have gone on in Gaza over the last 2 years. And a lot of people have died, mate, massively murdered, really violently and brutally. Children too. So if you went walking through there and you were a happy, kind-hearted person and you walked all around those streets, if you're a sensitive person, you'd pick up the energy of the dead. You'd pick up the energy of the anger, of the violence. And that's why most of the elementals will not come around humans when they're violent or angry. They will avoid them like a bad smell. They see us lovingly, but they also see us as a very dangerous potential. Because what we do on this earth, mate, and we have been doing it for nearly 1 million years, we kill each other violently. That's humanity. All of humanity. We may look like we're really lovely people, you know, walking around, children and all that. But if we could see what we've done in previous lives, and even to some of the people that are within our family, we would step back and say, oh my God, that's how bad it could be. So that's why the element kingdom keep away from us. And that's why, naturally, they live within a vibration that is fourth dimensional. I've got to say this, and I haven't said this before, but I'm going to say this. Mother Earth, as I said, has got a spirit, which was given by, I've got to say, Yarkis Carters, 4.71 billion years ago. And that activated every atom in the entire Earth right at the same moment. The energy just dissipated within the Earth and became the Earth, which made the Earth alive. So the Earth is hard, it's a planet, but what it has is a living essence, a living spirit within it. And all these elements that were created by Mother Earth, the spirit, they are there to help Mother Earth, Mother Spirit, to bring balance to the Earth. And it's a really hard job. Now, the spirit of Mother Earth, when the elements come to one really big, massive celebration or gathering, the spirit of the Mother Earth comes into form and can create herself into actual form and take on what looks like either a human physical body or an elemental. It just depends. And I know for a fact that the spirit of Mother Earth has come to different people on Earth and presented herself just as a human in exactly the same appearance and has helped someone in a high position to change something for the betterment of humanity or all of humanity at different times throughout human history.
Wow.
They have the ability, well, Mother Earth has the ability to transform herself because she is from the feminine energy. It's like giving birth. She gave birth to the element world, and they're all over the planet. They're in the trees, they're in the bushes, they're in the waters, they're in the air, they're everywhere. But they're not in the areas where violence has occurred in such a horrendous way like a war. Because there have been wars, mate, that have been so bad that you would just look and vomit instantly to what is out there and what humans have done to other humans. So bad. That's why a lot of people just do not relate to when it says, I would never go to war. They say, why not? Why wouldn't you fight for your country? I will not be transformed into a mass murderer for a government. Because all they're doing is making money out of it. 100%.
And so these elementals, if we have a place with a garden, do we have them in our garden? And if so, what do they do when they want to go back into their homes and sleep or something? Where do they go?
Okay. If a person, say there's an elderly woman or an elderly man or even a young woman or a young man, kids, and they all love the garden work. They've got a beautiful garden or a farm, whatever, but really lovely. And they're growing veggies and plants and roses and little bushes of trees, nut trees, whatever, avocado trees. Elements will be attracted to that because of the positivity. They're always attracted to positivity, 100%. When they come there, they'll sometimes even try to reveal themselves to children. And this happens all over the world, where so many children have said, Mummy, I have a new friend. Who's that? Oh, her name may be, maybe say, for instance, what I'm going to say, Gargle, right? Just say Gargle. And she's a girl about my age. And she's my friend now. Where does she live? Oh, she lives in another world. What? She lives in another world. It's called the element world. Because that's what the element would have told her. Right? Because the little girl would have said, where do you live? You look funny. I live in the element world. It's in another world, another vibration. Kids accept that 100%. Not a problem. You tell a parent that, they say, oh, they're in their imagination again, their pretend world, because they have lost the ability to understand that there are different vibrations that we are just not aware of anymore because we've grown up into an adult. And that's the sad part. But when they go back into their vibration, they just step through a vibration like Garber would, which is the Yowie, right? He just steps through vibration. The element kingdom do exactly the same thing. They also taught and helped the actual Yowies, how would you say, free themselves from the slaughter of humanity, because they were being slaughtered, shot, because they were different. It's like anything, if an alien suddenly appeared on the road and just looked at the car coming towards it, that car would probably run them down because they're an alien. Yeah, they might be really friendly, coming here to help. That's why a lot of the alien people are very, how would you say, I suppose, careful in how they approach a human because of the violence, which is so bad on this earth. Really bad.
So these elementals, are they going through their own evolution towards something greater?
Of course they are. Yeah, absolutely. They're evolving consciously, just like humans. In fact, they evolve if a human evolves. If a human is really angry, they immediately pull away from that entity, that energy. They don't want to be a part of it, right? But they're there to help us. They come to us and they can be standing right next to us while we're lying on the grass or laying under a tree. And they can be talking to us and saying, and how do you feel today? You look okay, but you do look a little angry. Just get rid of the anger. Let it go. Because you see, anger, mate, it's the worst thing we can have when we react. We all do it, all of us, in some form or some fashion. But recognizing it and then trying to change it, that's the part we need to learn. The element world, they still learn those lessons, but nothing like we, because they've never created wars like we have. They've never raped like so many pedophiles rape these days. They don't murder. They don't steal.
Yeah, they don't have the karma that we have.
No, they don't have any karma, mate. The karma is so minimal compared to what humanity's karma is.
So do they age and die? And how is that possible considering they're fourth dimensional?
Okay. Fourth dimensional, okay. Let me just try to use an example, something really different. I don't want to use the silent assassin or Buddha. Okay, I will use Buddha just very quickly, and I'll use another one too, just to show you the difference. When Buddha turned 600 years of age, that's how long he lived. He just understood everything about energy, about life, about existence, about transformation, everything. So, when it was time for him to depart, he simply got all his disciples, which were new disciples, because probably like say 6 generations or 8 generations would have passed on before him. The disciples were sitting out there and he was reading to them a very interesting book. And the book was about the heart and understanding that the heart can be everything in your making of life. And as he was reading, which was at least, say, for half an hour solid reading, he came to the edge of this little wall. And below it was about 1,000 feet, all the way down. And the mountain was pretty straight, very slight angle, but pretty straight up all the way. And he was walking back and forth, still reading, and they were all sitting there. And what I could see with my vision was probably about, say, about 40, maybe 48, maybe 50 disciples within that monastery back then. And he said, now I want to say, everything comes to an end. I have been around for a very long time within this physical essence of my body, and I have been rejuvenating myself for a very long, long time compared to how humans pass away. And then he suddenly popped up onto the actual little fence, which was probably about, I don't know, maybe 60 centimeters, maybe a fraction more, could have been 70 centimeters high. And they all went like that. And they were thinking, what's Master Buddha doing? You know? And he's walking back and forth along this fence. And they're looking at him, reading, but not watching where he's walking. And they were all tensed, but he was doing this for a reason. Suddenly, he was no longer on the fence or the rock wall. He was about 2 meters out, walking back and forth on thin air. And he turned around and looked at them and he said, why do you all stare? Your faces have so much fear, confusion upon it. And they said, Master, we don't want to arouse the energy of what you're doing, but you are not standing on solid ground. He says, I know, because it is my moment to depart. And they said, depart what? He says, it is my time to leave. You have learned everything that I need to teach you. The new master will eventually come, but you must be aware of the teachings of that new master will change everything again to the old way. And you must stand strong. And as he said the word strong, he started to shrink. And there was all this gold energy. And suddenly there was no Buddha. And his clothes just started floating gently down. They all rushed to the wall. And one nearly fell over, and the other one grabbed him by the neck and pulled him back. And they were just watching the clothes going all the way down and eventually fall on the ground. And they said, Buddha's gone. Now, with an elemental, it's the very same thing. Elementals can live up anything from 400 to 1,000 years of human time because they don't have a body. Elementals can actually stay forever the way they are if they choose to because they don't have a physical body. They're fourth dimensional, no physical matter. They can also transform as they grow consciously. They can transform more and more and more. And that's the interesting factor.
And they choose to reincarnate over and over within themselves?
If they choose to, yes. And they can also say, they get a group together. I've seen it. They get a group together of their friends and they say, it is time for me to depart. And they go through a ceremony of all that type of stuff, farewell and everything. And that one there just sits in a beautiful chair, which is made out of wood, carving. They love carving, by the way. A lot of them actually love carving trees into shapes and all that for chairs and beds and whatever else it may be. And that one will just depart. And they'll just disappear. And their energies will be all different colors. Orange, red, yellow, green, all different colors. Just depends. So it all works in the element kingdom like that. But it can also work on the physical plane. Just like in that movie called Panda. I think it's the first one or second one.
Yeah, Kung Fu Panda.
Kung Fu Panda, where the turtle is on this big rock with a big plum tree or peach tree, and the little fox or whatever that creature is, he's trying to ask the master turtle, about something, and the master turtle says no. He said, it is time for me to depart. He said, what do you mean, basically? And you see all the leaves coming off, all the buds coming off the actual tree all around him, and suddenly he's no longer standing on the mountain there, and all the leaves are swirling, and the other things fascinated by it, and he departed because he's been around for so long. We can break down the structure of our atoms more and more and more and become pure living energy in a physical form, but no internal organs. We can do that.
Wow.
And that's what Buddha did.
Right.
Right? That's what Zhang Qi, Master Zhang Qi did that in the story that I'm writing at the moment. And so did Shang Lu Sha, who was a 15-month-old baby that he discovered and trained right through his life, and they became the silent assassin. So he did the same thing. He was taught. And it takes years to do it. But you can break down the cellular structure more and more and more through your consciousness.
This concludes another episode of Kuntarkis. If you'd like to find out more about Kuntarkis, find his website, which is etcconsciousness.com. He has articles there, he has his books listed there, and also if you have any reason to contact us in general for any reason, just email kuntarkis@gmail.com. That's it for now. Thanks so much for listening. My name is Michael Yon, and stay tuned for more.